This video is to allow you to correct the homework for section 9.2.2, problems 965 through 970. So the first thing they want you to do is look at this pyramid and answer the questions that they have below. So if the pyramid were sliced vertically, what would the resulting cross sections look like? Right? So if you were going to slice this vertically, what would you get for two-dimensional shapes? You should get triangles, you should get trapezoids, you should get pentagons. And again, I would need to look at your sketches as well. And then if you were going to slice it horizontally, what would the resulting cross section look like? And that, of course, would be a hexagon. So I only should see, or only need to see, one sketch for that. For 966, you're using this rectangular prism to answer these questions. So the first one is to calculate the surface area of the prism. Now, what you want to remember is that surface area formula, I'll make this a little bigger print, and the order doesn't matter that you do it in, but the surface area of a rectangular prism is basically going to be 2 times length times width plus 2 times width times height plus 2 times, length times height. So one of the things that you'll notice about that is that each of the components, each of the sections, basically each of the dimensions is probably the better word, is represented twice. So length is in this formula twice, width is in this formula twice, and height is in this formula twice. That's a way to kind of check that you haven't made any mistakes on that. Length times width is basically going to be how you find the top and the bottom. So that's why there's two of them. You're finding the area of the top and then doubling it to also include the area of the bottom. Width times height would be basically the side measurements, because here's your width, here's your height. So again, you're doubling it because you want to represent both sides. And length times height would be the front and the back. Oops, that color is not going to show very well. Let me try to do a different color. So again, because you want front and back, that's why we're doubling it. So in this particular case, again, what I meant by the fact that the order doesn't matter is that you can add these in any order. In other words, the order that I have them in here would not necessarily be the same as what you have. So what I did was 2 times 4 times 12, and 2 times 4 times 12 would actually be my front and back. So that would actually be my length and height first, and that's fine. And then 2 times 4 times 3, well, 4 times 3 would be my width and height, my sides, and again doubling. And then 2 times 12 times 3, that would be my top and bottom. So again, you can change the order that you add them in, but you need to make sure that all of these are represented, top and bottom, the two sides, and the front and back. And then again, order of operations, say you multiply, 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 and then add at the end. And we know that the reason the order that we add in doesn't matter is because addition is commutative. So we get 192 square centimeters. Then they want to know, why is the exponent for area a 2? Well, you're multiplying two dimensions, all right? And when you multiply two dimensions, centimeters by centimeters, you're going to get square centimeters. Another way that you can think of it is that we always use a square unit to represent area. And again, that's why, because when you're finding area, you're multiplying two dimensions. Then they want you to calculate the volume of the prism. And we know that volume of a prism is just length times width times height. So 12 times 3 times 4, and that's 144 cubic units, in this case cubic centimeters. And then they want to know, why is the exponent for volume units A3? In other words, why do we have cubic units? And again, that's because we're multiplying three dimensions. So centimeters by centimeters by centimeters is going to give you cubic centimeters. Now, if you have not yet copied that surface area formula into your workbook, you probably want to do so. And then again, it wouldn't also hurt to put the volume formula in there, length times width times height. And again, both of these are for rectangular prisms. For 967, James lives in Columbus, Ohio. He wants to know how far he is from Indianapolis. On his map, the two cities are 1 3/4 inches apart. At the bottom of the map, he sees this scale. They want you to write a proportion and then find the distance from Columbus to Indianapolis. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start by using the scale to make a ratio. So 25 hundredths of an inch is the same as 1/4 inch, equals 25 miles. Now, if you want to leave this as a fraction, you totally could. The reason I changed to the decimal is some people, especially with a 4-function calculator, are stronger if they do it as a decimal than if they do it as a fraction or mixed number, but it is totally optional. And then we want to know if these cities are actually on the map 1 3/4 inches apart, how far is that in reality? So again, if I was going to change to the decimal here, I also changed 1 3/4 to a decimal here. All right, and then you can use your cross products to solve. The other thing is that we could have done it in a little bit different way, which is that if 1/4 of an inch is 25 miles, we could also think of it as 1 inch being 100 miles. In other words, we could multiply both of these by 4. 1/4 times 4 is 1 inch. 25 miles times 4 is 100 miles, so that you don't have to think about the decimal. But again, I also used with the decimal here, could have gone with 1 3/4 as well. Either way, you end up getting a final answer of 175 miles. 968, Kenny took some measurements on the front of his house and quickly drew this sketch, which is shown. They want you to create a scale drawing. So again, the answer is going to vary because it depends on what you decide to go with for your scale, because they just tell you to create a scale drawing. So what I did is I went with 1 inch being equal to 6 feet. And then that means that this dimension, which was 12 feet, would be 2 inches. And this dimension, which was 30.5 feet, 30.5 divided by 6 gives you 5, and basically 5.083 repeating. All right, you could also have gone with the fraction here. So I had to draw that to my best of my ability. That's pretty close to 5 inches. And then that created the scale drawing. Remember that when you create a scale drawing, the measurement of the angles will not change. So that's still going to be 45 degrees. These are still going to be 90 degrees. Again, you could go with a different scale if you wish to. So I'll need to check your answers. For 969, make sure you have the work shown. I just have the answers here, but you need to have some work shown as well. So the first one is 5 3/5, then negative 100, 10, negative 4.5, and you could go with a decimal there too, negative 7/12, 29/50, which you could go with a decimal there as well, negative 7/100, and negative 56 1/2. So again, have work to justify those answers. For 970, they want you to evaluate this inequality. Again, we tell it's an inequality because we have a less than symbol, or if we had a greater than symbol, that would also be an inequality. So in other words, replace x here and here and see if the left side of the equation is less than the right side of the equation. So in other words, what I should see for work, because it does say to show your work, is I should see that you have 4 replacing x plus 4 being less than 2 times 4 minus 3. And remember that oftentimes we will put a question mark above that because we're asking ourselves, is that true? Well, 4 plus 4, of course, is 8. We want to know if 8 is less than 2 times 4 is 8 minus 3. 8 is not less than 5. we would have put a slash mark through there saying it's not true. And so because of that, we would say it's false. Right? But again, you should have some steps shown. For the second one, you're replacing x with -2 here and here. And you end up getting another false statement. 2 is not less than -7. Again, if you want to, you can go like this, slash mark through these to show that that's not true. And then for the third one, it is still false because it ends up being that they're equal, and that's not the case. Again, if they're equal, then the left side is not less than the right side. And for the last one, that does end up being true. When you replace x with 9, you get 13, which is less than 15. So that's the only true statement.